Okay, I'm going to show you how I do some lighting tricks with just a few colors, and I am using a drawing that I already started on. It is a Mediterranean gecko. I've already started on a lot of the highlights in white, a lot of the little scales that are kind of bumpy, and you know, defining some of the areas, lightly outlined with white just to kind of keep me in line where things are. And then I'm just going to use maybe about 3 colors to mess around with the lighting. And I'm going to show you how I go about doing that. And it's kind of a fun exercise that I was talking about in one of my previous tutorials, that it's a good exercise to kind of play on lighting. And the image that I'm using, it was actually a color image, but I reduced it to grayscale so that you have nothing but shadows and lights, and the color's not there to confuse you, so you can kind of play around with color and you know, do some interesting tricks with it. I am going to start with blue, and I have like a sort of like a turquoise green and a light pink that I'm going to use for some of the other light sources. So I am just going to play around with that for right now. Okay. And see, with dark paper like this isn't solid black, but it's a dark brown color. A lot of your shadows are already going to be on the page for you, so what you're mainly going to focus on is the highlight areas and how dark and how light those colors are. And then you're going to play around with the colors to kind of make them behave the way you want them to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the head here. And the top I'm going to use, actually I'm going to use the green on the top as a kind of like an outline out there. And what you can do, now that you have your outline on that area, is you shade it in just a little bit. And again, I'm kind of focusing on some of the patterns that are in the skin of the gecko, and I'm going to use that just a little bit. There's it's got some splotchy marks here and there, but I'm only going to shade in maybe about half, or not half an inch, but maybe 1/4 of an inch into the outline of this animal. This is actually good for figure drawing as well, to play around with it if you want to do that. Any figure or object, this is a really good exercise to kind of play around with, just to mess around with lighting and color and how you can really change up things. Okay, now we'll start in the blue. This is going to be where I have to watch where my blotches are. Hold on just a minute. I'm actually going to put this up on my computer screen so I can see it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the eyes. I'm actually going to outline some of the blotches now because I don't want to lose my space here. So now is where it gets a little bit more tricky because there's a lot more pattern going down the back. I'm just going to do this little leg right here. Okay, so some circular blotches here, so I'm going to outline them. Okay, so I'm going to do some of the arm here. And you can already sort of see how it's taking shape. It becomes sort of three-dimensional even with these few colors that you're using. So it's kind of fun to mess around with. I'll go ahead and do this leg since this is all the way back here. These geckos are actually, I have them living in my area. There's actually some that live near my apartment, and they're always out at night. They're really interesting looking. They almost look like their skin's transparent, but it's not really. There's actually a lot of mottled coloration when you look up close to them. Okay, let's see if I can do this quick before the camera dies, or I think it's full battery though, but I'm just being cautious. And there's some nice skin folds around the neck here. I always like that when certain geckos and lizards have those skin folds. They're really good practice for drawing and such. Something satisfying about drawing them. I'm actually going to go back over and add a few highlights in this blue area. But before I do that, I'm going to show you the last color that I'll use for the purposes of this tutorial. Alright. Now around these bumpy areas, there's a little bit of shadow that goes down, so you kind of just gently fade into this curve here of the body. I'll probably have to fill some of that in too, but that's okay for now. And then the last color that I'll be using is pink, like a bright pink color, and that's going to be to kind of underline the gecko in a sense. That'll be your third color, and this is just like an under highlight, or a second highlight point, where your blue is your main base color, and then you've got two color sources or light sources, which is like the turquoise green color and then this nice light pink color. And there's even a reflective of this in the eye. And you can go back when you're doing this kind of coloring scheme and sharpen some of your highlights with white, which helps kind of make it pop a little more if you want to do that. But this is a really kind of fun sort of exercise to do. You can even do it to kind of stylize your art a little bit if you want to play around with. It's kind of a good thing to do, even just as kind of a therapeutic thing. It's really fun to play around with what you can do with these colors and make things appear more psychedelic than what they really are. And see how that sort of changes everything there. It definitely gives a different impression than just the plain color that you'd get from an average photo, or just a single light source. When you have something that's kind of playing around, if you do lighting with different colors, I mean, you can really mess around with things and make them look very interesting. And then just maybe outline some of the toes, just a little bit, because there's not going to be much highlight on the toes, mainly on the back of this arm here, maybe a little bit. And then definitely on the belly. And on some of the skin folds. See, so our basic, how these lights are sort of interacting is that this pink light is coming from below and this turquoise light's coming from above. So if you kind of want to change that up, you have to kind of put a marker for yourself. Like say if you have this color coming from below, you could do a little scribble down here just to remind yourself where the light's coming from, if there's an angle, and you can kind of play around with that. And the best thing to do is to use black and white photos. That way the actual colors don't confuse you and you get a more direct look at light and shadow. That way you can kind of mess with the colors and not be concerned too much about what the average colors of your subject are going to be. And then back here just a tiny bit, because I'm not sure that light would actually reach up here, but we're just playing around, so we can do that. But I am going to fill in a little more blue in here, because it's a little bit scribbly, because I'm trying to work quickly enough so that, you know, I get enough information and hopefully not too long of a time, because I like to keep things somewhat short. Yeah, I don't want to have people dragging along trying to get information that they want, and you know, it's just not moving anywhere. Because if I work at my normal pace that I do, I mean, you just have people staring at a screen, and I don't want that. I want people to get the message rather clearly, and so they get something out of it in a quick package. And some of these blotches actually have lighter highlights around them, so I'm going to go back in and add that. And this should blend with some of the blue, so I'm not too worried about being very hard on it. Light pressure working on these. Especially the larger blotches, you'll notice on these Mediterranean geckos they have almost a little tiny bit of a hint of a border on them. Not too much though. It's almost like they're blotches between blotches. It's a very odd little animal. They're not, I don't believe they're native to Florida. They're one of the many introduced species we have. We're the one state that has a plethora of things that shouldn't be here because they got here some way or another, whether through shipment or somebody releasing something they shouldn't have. But I guess it makes life interesting. And a little bit up here. And as I said before, if you want to, especially with the eye, I'm thinking I'm going to add just a little bit of white on the end here of this highlight here. Okay, this is my completed image here. I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I know the camera cut off just before I was finished, but that's okay. Again, thanks for watching, and I definitely suggest trying out this exercise on different things. It's a great way to kind of get a feel for colored pencils and lighting and playing around with colors, so I definitely suggest it. I'll see you later.